this story marked the foundation of a lot of the mystery schools in Egypt, the initiations. And in a way, you couldn't really go to other initiations with other neter or other temples unless you've done the work with Auset first. You've done the work with the underworld, and you've done your work with the darkness in order to build up as we move through the tree of life, which we'll introduce this week. So, Auset and Usar, they are born of Geb and Nut, the celestial mother and the father Geb. The mother was the sky, was the universe, was the celestial womb. And the earth was the father. So the whole Pachamama thing is now Pachapapa. And in a way it makes sense to me personally, because the earth gives you the nourishment and the stability you need. Just like a father gives you the stability, the safety, and the nourishment you need from the earth. The mother drips her, in a way, her celestial milk. She is the one that gives you life, but also she gives you life from the womb of creation. And the womb of creation is this beautiful, vast universe we live in. So when we say, "Oh Father, somewhere in heaven, hallowed be thy name," we're like, really, where is he? The absent, hello, Dad, like, where are you? And that kind of gives us the sense of the absent father syndrome. We came from the mother's womb, so we're super connected to earth, but the universe is a very scary place, as is the mystery, because we don't know it. It's an absent father, right? If we switch it over, the father is the earth. It gives you the sustenance, the nourishment, the nourishment you need to be held. And the mother gives you the sense of the holding. Now the whole time space, death holds you, embraces you. Death isn't a scary thing. Death is part of my womb. Death is part of life, and death itself is like nature. And we embrace our more universal aspect. Then we're able to rest more into this feminine quality. So the feminine is something that we can be embraced by. The mystery is something we can be embraced by. So Auset, Usar, Nebuchadnezzar, Seth, Heru the Elder, all are born of Geb and Nut. And Set and Nebuchadnezzar in the womb were separated. But Auset and Usar in the womb were merged. They were united. They already knew the sacred union from the moment they were conceived. The others didn't. So when they came and were born into the world, Auset and Usar already knew divine love, sacred union. It was in their DNA. It was never anything absent to them. And so through that sacred union, they were able to create and co-create with life a lot of wonder and magic. Agriculture thrived, education thrived, things around them. They were ruling in a way the land, but things were really at their peak. You know? So much was able to be created through their divine union. They were able to manifest in the world and create a wonderful place for others. And so that was the power of their union. Seth, on the other hand, didn't have that. I didn't care for that. And he was sent into the desert. That is his domain, the barren, dry desert landscape, hot, nothing grows there. And he's there all alone with his kingsmen. And some stories say that he was not interested in women, meaning he was more favorable of the male sex. Maybe that is so, who knows? But he didn't care for this divine union love story. Who cares about that? Nebuchadnezzar, on the other side, she was the dark sister. Let's say she was always kind of in the forest, somewhere in the oracular world, a masterful healer, a masterful magician, a masterful oracle. But she didn't really get as much attention like Auset. Like Auset has the social media, she's got her Instagram up. Nebuchadnezzar doesn't. She's like that girl who's so, we all know those women, amazing talents, but no one sees their gift. No one, they live alone in a shack somewhere and they create the most amazing elixirs and the most amazing oracular people. I know some of those. but no one knows about them. It's a privilege to be in their company, but they will never even charge for their gift. That's the kind of quality of Nebet. Auset is more of a more shimmering star-like quality. Auset travels from the brightest star into the darkest light. The brightest star into the darkest dark. Nebetet dwells in the darkness. Her shimmering is in the darkness. So, Nebetet is somewhere far away. Seth is somewhere far away. They are meant to be together, but they are not, because they can just not come together. There is a force that separates them. So they both hold this force of the separation of the divine union. So, Auset and Usar, madly in love, la 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 la, life continues, wonderful, wonderful. They rule the land, everyone is there. And they don't know a day apart. They don't know what it feels like to be even a moment apart. They're always together. Seth, after time, sees their power, sees their love story, sees their beauty, and he gets really fed up. At some moment inside, he becomes so bitter of always needing to see this romance in front of his eyes. You know, if you've just had a breakup and you see a beautiful couple kissing on the bus in front of you, you're like, oh, for fuck's sake, just stop that. You're like, oh, for God, that's his attitude. Oh, for God's sake, I can't stand this anymore. Like, enough, you know? So at some moment, all this gooey, enough. I want to end this once and for all. So he's not talking to his brother. He doesn't talk to Usar. But he comes up with a very good plan. What happens if I invite my wonderful brother to my palace in the desert and tell him to come, and we're going to create peace together and make a wonderful brotherhood again? He's like, I know my brother, such a loving, kind person, will get happy and accept my invitation. And that's exactly what happened. He sent the invitation out, and of course Usar, jumping up and down, Auset, my brother, he wants to make peace. He's so happy. He's full of happiness. And Auset's like, oh, you sure? Yes, look. Oh, wow. Okay, this is great. Finally, he's come to his senses. Finally, our brother dares to show up. So Usar on that day gets ready, gets excited. I'm going to go out and party with my brother. This is going to be great. And so he goes out, and exactly as he thought it would be, wine everywhere, dancers dancing, beautiful dance, food and banquets, beautiful smells in the air, an intoxicating night of ecstatic pleasure. And his brother Seth pours and pours more wine, and Usar is getting more and more drunk and more happy, and then he wants to present his brother with a gift. So back then, a wonderful gift is a coffin. Not like nowadays. If you give someone a coffin, you'll be like, oh, he must really hate me, fuck you. Not a very nice gift, but back then it's like, what an honor. You give me a coffin, my spaceship home to the stars, my vehicle back home to where I came from. What an honorable gift. So he presents him with the most honorable gift he could, a coffin. And Usar, oh, wow, for me, a coffin, he's ecstatic. And so, like a little boy, just like when they were kids, he jumps inside, all happy, and then, bam, the lid of the coffin closes. And from that moment, it's very obvious to everyone that the party is over. The musicians stop, the dancers run away, and there is a sense of doom and gloom in the air as Seth quickly shouts, come on, take him out! And so together they wheel out this coffin and they wheel it all the way into the Nile and send it in. Good riddance, bolted, closed coffin, no air coming in. Let my brother now rot in hell. Goodbye, brother. So Usar floats all the way with the Nile, all the way up to Byblos, which is now in Lebanon. Auset gets the story. Ah, fuck, there's my brother. There's my brother. Look what my brother... She gets the information, and she, for the first time, really feels what it is to be separated from Usar. She never had a second of separation. And she's infuriated, angry. How dare he? How dare he? How dare his own brother? She's so angry and so determined to get him back. Pissed off, angry. She's not even sad at this moment. She is determined to get him back. And that's exactly what she does. With the magic of, some of the stories say, the 7 scorpions, she gets enough of the power, the oraculative power, to know exactly where he is, to march all the way to BLISS to get him back herself. And that's exactly what she does. Are you still following me? Yeah? So there she goes to BLISS, and she hears the story from the townspeople. Oh, there's this beautiful coffin that arrived on the shores. And wherever this coffin went, it just emanated the most intoxicating smell of perfume. And so the story got to the palace. And inside the palace, they realized, my God, must be a very enchanted coffin. We must bring it here into the palace and keep it. And that's what happened. The queen and the king heard about this coffin. And so they were able to bring the coffin into the palace. And they put it right at the center of the courtyard. And around it, majestically and magically, a wonderful cedar tree started to build its way around the coffin. Auset, hearing the whispers from the townspeople, from the market people, this coffin, that must be him. I knew it. He's here. Great. And so she goes to the palace, and there she is, and disguises herself as a handmaiden, a maid you may call it, and goes inside the palace and starts to whisper with the other maids. Hey, so what's happening here? And she starts to hear the stories. The queen has a sick son, very sickly. Oh, there's this coffin at and she knows Usar is in the coffin, but she can't just take him away. So slowly she starts to heal different people in the courtyard, in the palace gates. This soldier has a broken leg, wonderful. This handmaiden gets very bad menstrual cramp, wonderful. And so she starts with her medicine to start to heal, until it reaches the queen's ears. There is this very gifted medicine woman from Egypt. She's right here. We must call her in to heal our son. And so they call her in. And after a consultation with her, perfect. She's hired. You're going to take care of my son. So every night, Auset takes the sickly boy, very skinny, coughing all the time, without much life in his body. She starts to put him on a fire. The fire burns. And there, night after night, she does this ritual, burning him into the immortal flame, burning. And so he gets his strength back. And she's almost finished. The last ritual that would grant him immortality, when one night the queen says, my God, this gifted woman, I must find out how she does this. I must find out. And so she opens up the door at night and she takes a little peek inside. Screams, my son in the fire. She doesn't understand, but said, shh, no, it's the last ritual of immortality. Immortality, what are you talking about, you crazy woman? Take him out of the fire now. And so Auset does, and takes the child out of the fire. She said, but he was about to be granted immortality. Who are you crazy woman? Who are you? And so Auset at that moment takes up her disguise and shows herself in her full regalia. And the queen, the only thing she can do is look down to the floor at that moment. Forgive me. Scared, nervous. What do I do? What do you want? Why are you here? And Auset, being the kind and loving, compassionate, and very relatable goddess, opens up her heart and shares her story. And the queen becomes like a sister, sits with her and listens to her story. And the queen is full of compassion at the end. Please, I want to help you. Let me get the coffin out for you, and I would love for you to receive it, and I will help you take it to the marshes, and please retrieve your wonderful husband out of that, and God bless you. And so she helps her. That is one story, but of course in ancient Egypt there are different replicas. The other story is that the queen gets so angry and tries to kill Isis, and Isis quickly goes in there and steals the body. I like the first version better. I think it makes more sense. So let's stay with the first version. She takes the body out of the coffin, and there he is, alone with him by the marshes. And she holds his lifeless body to her heart, and she kisses his cold cheeks, and she feels the sadness, but she feels the longing, the devotion, the longing and the commitment to bring him back to life. So in that moment, she turns into a little sparrow bird, and she flutters her wings and her magical breath of life. And as she does that, she goes around his lingam, his phallus, his heart, his being, his soul, and she fans him with these wings like you can see in front of you, all the way back to life. And there he is. His lips are full, pulsing again. His heart is beating. He was only dead a little bit. There was still a little flame of life in him that she was able to retrieve back into life. Her love and devotion brought him back to life from the dead. You know that feeling sometimes when you're like on your last breath in this world, like you can't take it anymore, and someone just comes with all their love and just pours that loving devotion into you, and you're able to come back into life. So that's what happens. So there he is. And of course, she's missed him. His cheeks, his lips, his hands, his body, his wonderful lingam, there it is. And they make love and love by the marshes until the sun comes up, and they're laughing and holding each other again. He's like, "You crazy woman, I knew you loved me, but not this much." And she's like, "Oh my God, I will go to the end of the world to get you back." And he really feels this love, and together they share this union of love. And they start their walk back to Egypt together to go back home. Now, Seth, who is also a very oracular nature, they're all a bit psychic, these ones, he can also feel, there he is. I see him again. You know, I'm sure all of us have this little bit of psychic tendency in this room. You just feel it. You can smell it. You know that someone's close, something's up. That's exactly what he feels. His senses are alive. There he is. And so he summons the oracle. Where is he? And so with the summoning of the oracle, he's able then to go to exactly where they are. And there he sees them again. Oh my God. How did this happen? How is their love so powerful? And in that moment, with the most intense feeling of desiring separation, wanting to tear something apart, wanting to destroy it with every last breath he had, he took out his sword, and Auset at that moment screamed, and Usar at that moment put up his hands, but it was too late. Ta! 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 Ha! Ha! And scatters the 14 pieces all over Egypt. There, all his body parts flung all across Egypt. Auset is left there with nothing, not even a single piece of his body. Seth takes one look at her. She knows something happened, something serious. This was too final. And he marches off. And so Set is left there with nothing. He's gone, and she knows he's gone. And she feels he's gone. And it's so obvious that he is never coming back to her. She cannot handle that reality. She cannot even handle that reality. It's too much to even feel in that moment. So rather than feel it, she disassociates and goes into madness. She tries to not eat. She numbs herself from the feeling. And so she turns into the mad woman, wandering around crazy. Weeks go by, days, weeks, maybe even months go by. She forgets to wash her body. She doesn't care to eat. She becomes skinnier and skinnier. She might rummage somewhere in the garbage for some food. She might knock on someone's door. Everyone pushes her out, kicks her out. She smells. She forgets to even wear clothes sometimes. The kids make fun of her. And this is the great goddess Auset wandering the streets. A mad woman. And this goes on for a while. She doesn't even remember who she is, and she doesn't even remember. It's like the story of Usar somewhere far away. So disconnected. Until one day, maybe it was the smell of something that reminded her. Maybe she saw the back of a man walking in a certain robe. Maybe something sparked her memory. And at that moment, the floodgates of emotions opened. And she finally cries, finally allows the tears to fall. And she falls onto her knees and cries and cries and cries. And there's even a myth that says the River Nile is formed by these tears itself. She cries a river, she cries an ocean, she cries until she can cry no more, and then she cries again. And so that goes on for a while. The disbelief, the sadness, the grief, the immense grief of knowing that he's gone. The first real grief of feeling separation, pure separation from the one. And so she sits with that grief until finally, as life is kind, we live in a kind universe. I doubt it sometimes, to be honest, when I look at the news, but apparently we live in a kind universe. Her sister feels her. Her sister, somewhere far away, feels her. Something's up with my sister. And just at that moment where she really needed her sister, there she is, holding her hands. Honey, what's happened? Let it out. Talk to me. She makes her a soup. She massages her dry skin. She puts her on a nice new dress. She brushes her hair. Tell me, what happened? And there she is, with the love of her sister, able for a moment now to come back to her senses and to get some of her strength back. And so her sister stays by her side, nourishing her, taking care of her, listening to her sorrow. And her sister joins in her song of sorrow. So together they start to sing the laments, the songs of sorrow, the songs of lament. And she joins her in the wailing and the singing. And this also allows them to connect in this grief together. But Nebatet, also being the strong oracular sister, says, well, with the power of my sight, I'm able to trace where the body parts are. I say we go on an adventure together, sister, and we go find the pieces. Now, anyone know that in your life where you're in the worst moment and just that moment your phone rings and somehow by grace, your brother, your sister, your mom, a best friend, someone, maybe it's even a stranger you just meet in a workshop or someone on the street, but you hear something you really needed to hear that gives you strength, right? That's like that story. It's not just about having a sister. It's about having a friend or someone at that moment. That's grace. Grace comes in, and at that moment, Auset is visited by Grace, his sister. And so they start this wonderful voyage, the song lines bringing them one body part to another, one piece to another, and slowly they're able to retrieve the first body part, and then the second. And then the songs, the laments, the togetherness of this connection. One other body part comes back and another. And eventually, who knows how long it took? It doesn't matter. It was the journey itself that mattered. The journey of two beings going together on the journey to find these missing pieces. And eventually, until all the body parts were there except one. Who knows what that is? Yeah.
Oh, I've heard it.
Great. Let's not be shy. Let's say it out loud. The lingam, the penis. Because a catfish ate the penis. And what do we do now? There's no penis. Well, she's come this far. I mean, really, 13 wonderful body parts in front of her. She sees his body again, his fingers and his toes and his nose and his little ears. Everything is there. Of course, she's not going to stop now. So at that moment, she has so much strength from the journey. She's got so much of her power back. She feels nourished. She feels strong. She feels spiritually able and capable. So at that moment, she says, well, I've come this far. I will recreate his phallus myself. And she does that. And the legend says, right here on these banks of this island, right here on these shores, she collects the mud and makes a wonderful phallus. Of course, other stories say it was made out of gold. It doesn't make sense to me. She'd have to go to a person, they'd have to heat up the gold. And, it's a complicated method. The mud. Let's keep it simple. The mud, she makes a wonderful phallus out of mud and this beautiful dry clay erected phallus, and there it is, the body, the parts, and his phallus right there, and it is so irresistible. There he is. She's waited so long that at that moment she just lifts up her skirt and sits on his body and starts to ride him back in her own ecstasy. This power of her erotic force so strong that at that moment his body electrified again by life, and there she is, riding him to the point of conception, and she plants within her the seed of her beloved. And at that moment, oh my God, this power of this woman is so strong that he comes back to life. Wow, so much energy. The power of erotic force creates universes, creates life. There it was. And this beautiful ejaculation, the conception to give back life into her body. And together they hold each other again. And he is so in disbelief. My God, I was gone. She was able to bring him back. And now she has the seed inside of her. And she knew at that moment she had conceived the child of Horus. Of course, it would be so, if it was such a happy ending, it would be a little bit boring, wouldn't it? Because, yeah, sometimes there are no happy endings in that way. The story continues, the drama continues, as the drama of the wheel of drama always continues. Seth, again, feels this and again realizes that they've come back together, and Seth comes towards them. But at this moment, Usar says, no, brother, you've had your way twice, not the third time. I have integrity, and I will not allow you to do this again to me. I choose to go into the underworld. You will never know me again. You will never hear my breath. You will never see me. You will only feel me. I will never be part of your waking hour ever again. And Seth, relieved, okay, fine, do that. Thank God. And he's relieved. Auset at that moment, shaking. She knows this is the honorable way and this is the honorable truth. This will only continue for eternity. And she's already gone on such a long journey to bring him back this once. And she has the seed. So something in her is settled. She realizes that Usar is going away. So they have their final kiss. They have their final holding of hands. The final eye gaze, the final moment of feeling, the final breath. And she soaks it all in forever. And she knows it will be the last time she will ever see him again. And so with that, she says her final goodbye. And the softest tears flowing. He kisses her forehead, her lips, her hands, and descends into the underworld. And there he is, and there he still is, up till now. And he will never again come into the waking hour. So, Auset, sad, but also something in her, happy that she got to have this moment with him ever again. She didn't even know she would get that again. She got it. And she got his seed. She got the child, so he, in a way, will live through her son. And so that's a whole other story. We won't share it, about Heru, and the next big adventure begins with this son. But for now, we will end the story here. She gives birth to Heru, to Horus, this son. And whatever happens after that is another story for another time. So let's just take a breath into the story for a moment. Yeah. So the story is a story of our soul. It's not a story of anything other than what exists within us. It's a story of our own soul journey. Auset is within us, Usar is within us, and Heru is within us. They're the Trinity aspect that are coexisting inside of us. There are forces of destruction that want us to forget, that want to dismember. That force is in all of us. Seth is in all of us. We all have a little bit of Seth in us all that wants us to not be in sacred divine union with ourselves. Those are the distractions, whatever they are, however they come about. And he is a sacred force of nature. It is natural. We will never be able to eliminate that quality. It's always with us, some way or another. And yet, the story shows devotion, the deep, committed devotion to the One. And that doesn't mean to the One, meaning, to have to give it a name, but to the sense of being devoted to love, to commit your love to an aspect of yourself that is whole, commitment to your wholeness, to the part of you that is never, in a way, disconnected. She's so devoted. Her devotion is the power and the fuel to make wonders happen, to manifest, to create. But without her devotion, the door doesn't open to the soul birthing that we're talking about. Devotion is the key. So if we look at the story, Auset, Usar, we were born, we know divine union somewhere inside of us. And the tears that we cry sometimes are really just because we know we were never disconnected. Some part of us knows that we are home with the Creator and that there isn't any separation. And yet, when we come into this world, we forget, also part of a wonderful plan, to forget and to be separated. And so the story of this separation is really Auset and Usar inside of us. They've always known that union, but that force has come to divide. So what happens in the first part of the story? She realizes there's a separation. So that's what happens when we first have our spiritual awakening. The first moment is, oh my God, I'm separate from the Creator. That won't do. I am going to unite with the Creator. I'm going to go sit 7 hours in meditation. I'm going to go and get my enlightenment back and my return to the One back. And I'm going to do everything it takes to get that back. Wonderful. That is a will, a divine will that serves a part of the journey. We need to have some willpower. So the first part of the journey is willpower, but willpower is not enough. Willpower will never bring us back to that union that we're seeking. But it will take us far, and it will bring us back for a moment. The second part of the journey is when she realizes really that she's disconnected. Or let's say, when we realize, an aspect of our soul realizes, I'm really separated from the Creator, or from the divine, or from the One, or whatever you want to call it, I am actually separated. The first moment is a disbelief, disassociation, going a little bit crazy. That's the person who suddenly packs up their home, has an amazing job, and packs up everything to go to Bali or to go to India, or leaves their family, and everyone's like, are you crazy? I have a friend like that. He spent 10 years studying surgery in London's best surgery school, opened up his surgery on the most exclusive street in London for being a surgeon. And when he had his name shining in the wonderful silver on the front, and his family are like, you made it, you are the chief surgeon. At that moment, he packed up everything and went and lived in a tent in Greece on an island. And his whole family said, are you mad? Yes, I'm fucking crazy, okay? I remember part of me, it's starving. I want to go home. This is not life. That's that part, that craziness that will say, I can't do this anymore. I can't be locked up in that way anymore. There is so much more to me than my mortgage or my home or my life. I'm crazy, and I accept it. The first part of the journey. But that madness alone is not taking anyone anywhere. But it's a wonderful start to dismember, in a way, to fragment, to start to discombobulate from something. But the second part is very important. It's the tears and the grief. It's the feeling of it all. It's coming to the moment where it's like, actually, I need to really pause on everything. I don't feel that I'm associated anymore. I'm actually really feeling myself finally. And the tears will fall and the grief will come and there might be rage, but something is coming home at that moment. The emotions cannot be bypassed on the journey. The emotions are an important part of the journey, because at that moment she's able to come to her senses and remember it even more. The feeling of union comes through the feeling of the grief and the feeling and the pain, but from that comes the memory of union so strongly. So to not be afraid to feel is the second part of the journey. It's an important next step of the soul journey. And then after she feels so much, sometimes it's too much. What now? Oh, help will come. It's bound to come. And help does come in our life. We meet someone. We hear something happens, but grace comes in. Wow, you remembered your union. Here you go. Here's the support you need. The support comes. And then the soul reclamation part comes. The remembering of all the pieces. And again, with grace, one part of our lost self is found. Something that happened when you were 5 that was numbed and locked up and disassociated. Suddenly, through the feeling of it, comes back home. And a little part of you is like, ooh, I really feel like I'm back. Oh, this little thing that happened when you were 12. This past life thing, whatever it is, the soul fragments parts come back until finally it's like, wow, I feel myself again. I remember my true essence. That's great. That part of the journey then comes. But it is incomplete without the sexual energy. We can redo all the soul work we want, but if we don't go through the sexual reclamation, then that's also an important piece. And it's not about having sex with someone on the outside or finding a partner, the right partner. This is all inner alchemy work. This is all happening inside. It's in a way to be able to so feel your masculine and feminine presence so strongly that they are able to penetrate each other. So this part of you is penetrating your own being with your own phallic presence deep into your magnetic inner welcoming and receptivity and surrender. And when that surrender meets that deep presence and that beautiful longing and desire to be born again, at that moment something happens and the spark comes in. By grace, again, we cannot make this happen. And we can do some rituals, but really this will happen somewhere in its own time, when it's time. But you get this new breath of life and something happens. Then the gestation period, of course, comes. The time of gestation until finally one day you realize, oh my God, I'm starting to peek out my light into the world. Wow, here I am, and here I'm able to shine. And it's a very authentic, it's nothing, again, glamorous. It's just starts to emanate. So this is the wisdom behind the story. And every story has its wisdom, has its teaching, has its cosmology. So let's take a breath into that for a moment. The greatest love we are seeking is right here inside of us. The most sacred of union is right here inside of us. And to feel a little mad, to grieve, to cry, to not know, to feel scattered, is all part of the journey home. A journey of accessing our true essence, our natural, soft, courageous power, and our deepest surrender.